Arash says, what preposition should we use with question? I have a question of you, or I have a question for you. How about from you? Okay. Now, this is an interesting one, especially that you mentioned from. We have to understand the different uses of prepositions. To deeply do that, you probably need a 26-hour course about prepositions, which will be launching later this year or the beginning of next year. But for this specific case, we can just explore it a little bit. Someone asked a question of me. Someone asked a question of me. Now, this is sometimes used, but what it feels like is a thing that's requested. It's being pulled out, right? It's as though the answer is here inside, and by asking the question, then it is being extracted and brought out for others to see and understand and appreciate. For example, you asked a question of me yesterday would be an acceptable expression. Now, I think most of the time people will just say, you asked me a question yesterday. So the of me one is sort of like the pulling out idea, but it's less common. But I have a question for you is really common. I have a question for the whole group. I have a question for you. Now, do you have any questions for me? What does this mean? This for is kind of like the purpose of the question, right? If someone says, the train for Boston, it's sort of like this train's intention is Boston. Now, we could say the train to Boston, that's its direction. To is a preposition of direction usually. It's pointing the way somewhere. For is taking that direction and folding it into the thing itself. So if we say the train to Boston, we're kind of creating an arrow. And we're kind of talking about the arrow that's going in the direction of Boston. But if we say the train for Boston, which is also correct, we're pulling the arrow out from in front of the train, this imaginary arrow, and we're sinking it into the train itself. So that in some way it's the same, but now it's the purpose of the train to move in that direction, if that makes sense. I know that sounds weird, but that's the idea. Sort of the intention or the purpose of it. What is going on inside of it? It is a thing that has the intention of going to Boston. Trains don't have intentions, but we can talk about it in that way. That's called anthropomorphizing objects. We anthropomorphize things by placing intention and human characteristics into non-human things. So, I have a question for you is, my question is in the direction of you. The intention of my question is to hit you and then require you to give an answer. So in a way, the train which is the question, is moving in your direction, and you are the one that I want to speak about it, not another person. So if I say I have a question for the group, then I'm asking 5 people a question, and any one of you can answer, or all of you should answer. I have a question for Steve. I have a question for Mary. Then the intention of the question is to be answered by either Steve or Mary. Or if I don't want to say where it goes, then take out for and just say, I have a question. Anybody can answer the question, unless I'm looking at you, in which case you know that I mean you. I have a question. That means I'm not talking to that person over there. I have a question for you. So we don't always have to say for you because of that. It's suggested because I'm looking at you. I have a question for you. Tell me. I'm looking at you. It's suggested. It's implied that I don't have to say for. I hope that makes sense. Now, this whole preposition thing is a huge, giant topic, even larger than I realized. When I started writing the prepositions course, which is coming out at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, I thought this will be a 4 or 5 hour course. I'll write it in a couple of weeks. It took me almost 2 months to write the course. The course is now completely filmed. It's being edited. And it's going to be about 26 hours long, between 26 and 30 hours long. About only 24 words. 24 words. Now, why is it so long? It's so long because that's what it takes to truly explore each preposition, all of the ways that it can be used. And so I'm looking forward to launching it. But if you see it and you're interested in taking the course, don't be shocked by the length, because prepositions are tough because they're used in so many different ways. It's crazy how many ways that they're used. So I hope I answered your question, Arash. Thanks a lot, guys. Anyway, like button, subscribe, and don't forget to check out the courses in the links in the description.